that. Hi, everybody. Liz Kahn here with Unique Behavioral Wellness Services. I'm here with Dr. James Jernigan of Cornerstone Chiropractic here in our beautiful Cary, North Carolina office. We're very excited today because while we've been talking a lot about fear, we are also going to be talking about how we know we're there.
Yeah,
okay?
the awareness of it, because your cues, which you were
we're going to talk about triggers and cues
triggers
today.
and cues, and I think that this stuff, if you just take a hold of it and you really capture it and you understand it, like
no pressure.
This can radically transform your life, because this whole week has really been about awareness, and so what she's going to share with us today is life changing if you apply it. Kind of like it works if you work it, right? Yeah.
Right. So today we're going to talk about triggers and cues. Triggers are those things that happen out in the environment, out in the world, that inspire our emotion, right? Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you go, you've been triggered, right? Somebody says something offensive, you've been triggered. And I feel like it's kind of a pop culture thing in this day and age when we're talking about triggered.
Right. Some words, even like if somebody says a word to you, it might evoke a ton of emotion, but to another person it might not mean anything to them.
Well, and we never know, right? And I've told this story a couple of times. I've written blogs about it. The woman who asked me about Dave Matthews Band, okay?
Yeah.
Dave Matthews Band. First song that comes into my mind is that song Crash. Crash into me. Okay, I did not know. There was no way I could have known that when she was in high school, her band department had been traveling someplace and their plane crashed. No way I could have known this. She was so angry with me. She brought up Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
That is a Dave Matthews Band song. But she was angry with me because I had triggered her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this happens over and over and over again. And when I've talked about, in the past, I've talked about people taking responsibility and ownership for their own emotional state. Mm-hmm. But really, she was triggered. It was automatic. And I want to differentiate now the difference between being triggered and what a cue is.
Right.
So the trigger, that thing that evokes that feeling, right? The cue is the thing that lets you know you have been triggered.
Right.
And hopefully it is before, like the cue comes before the behavior, right? So my perfect example in my own personal life is that surprise has always been tough for me. I've got a bunch of older brothers, have had bullies in school, whatever, so surprises were not usually good. And I think I was in high school the first time my friends threw me a surprise party. And literally, what happened was that I burst into tears. I was, like, terrified.
Yeah.
For a surprise party. And it was because I had been triggered, and those physical things that lead to those feedback loops just threw me into a tantrum, or into a tailspin, not a tantrum.
Sure.
So I needed to identify the cues.
Yeah.
And so here's what I do to identify cues. I use a visualization practice.
Okay.
Now, this is a really special visualization practice. Now, I'm not phenomenally great at visualizing anyway, so for me, this is like, I have to kind of talk myself through it. Okay, what happened in that moment from when the lights flipped on? And I can watch Liz, what happened to her face. And she did this. Yeah. All of those muscles between my shoulder and my face told my brain, hey, I know what to do with that. Break down into tears. That's what your pattern is. So if I can identify those cues, become aware of them, when I feel myself, I can make a choice, because I've seen, this is one of my surprise cues. So I can do this.
Right, because we can't change what's going to happen when we're driving, when somebody cuts us off. We can't change that, but we can absolutely, the more awareness, the more control over your emotions and more awareness of your emotions, you can then proactively, make a decision of what can you do in that moment.
And the idea is very much like, if I were to stay in that surprise state, am I going to have any fun? What am I doing? And what am I doing to my body? What am I doing to my alignment? How is that impacting how I'm thinking, right?
Absolutely.
So this is not
simple. It goes
simple.
from we talked about that little seed,
right.
that first little
just
seed,
grew.
and it just manifests so huge.
So when I can say, hey, this is familiar and
Yeah.
I don't like how it ends,
Yeah.
that's where I can interrupt that process and literally say, I don't want to do this right now. I want to enjoy. Look at what my friends have done
Yeah.
for me. They've done this phenomenal thing. And I can really roll with it instead of having to recover from something that is anticipated based on previous behavior or previous experience, right?
So how do you do it? Like, when I know that's like we're getting
Right.
to the nuts and the bolts, and I think this is going to be a good action step for people.
Well, we kind of have to front load with this one. This is not something that you identify in the moment, right? So
Right.
I've worked with parents for 20 years when they're like, you know, when my kid is having a tantrum, I try to encourage him to take breaths. That's not the time to teach, right?
Right.
So we need to do a little bit of front loading. We need to
Okay.
say, okay, surprise messed up my life on so many levels,
Mhm.
right? Like my response to surprise didn't work for me. So I needed to do this visualization practice, not when I'm surprised,
Right.
when I'm not, when I'm in a calm space, when I can set aside 15 minutes and say, all right, let's do this practice. And maybe even go through it in slow motion, right? When they flipped on the lights and said surprise, I did.
hmm
And then I can see it. If you do it in front of a mirror, you're going to see things that you would not see necessarily in a visualization process. But pick one for, you know, pick the largest muscle group you can. Okay, that's going to be the easiest. Pick that largest muscle group. Shoulders. I can put myself into fear. If I put myself in this position, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to start having fear-driven thoughts.
Mhm.
I can do this. I can, and suddenly I've interrupted that loop. My thoughts are doing what I want them to do. My body is actually triggering a dopamine release. I think it's
absolutely,
dopamine.
because cortisol
Right.
is released when you're in this stress.
And so I'm flooding myself with awesome drugs
Mhm.
that I didn't have to pay for. Right? And he doesn't like it when I joke about that. And so, you know, I'm taking control.
Yeah.
And I'm also interrupting a cycle that not only is it not conducive for my social life, right? It's not conducive for my physiology,
Mhm.
and it leads to some pretty nasty things. So our triggers are the things that have that automatic push.
Yep, the stimulus.
And then our cues, if you think about it like dominoes, the trigger is the flicking of the first domino. We want to catch one of the first 10 dominoes before we end up in that spiral, so
because
that
if you're
we
at the
don't.
50th one, it's going to be way harder to stop it because it has so much momentum coming through.
Exactly.
And it's already changed so much of the chemistry in your body that it is harder. So the quicker that we can be aware of it and
it's practice.
Be conscious. Yeah.
Right. So find that large muscle group. Find the largest muscle group. Sometimes it's your cheeks, right? Mm-hmm. Who knows? Whatever. Pick the one that you feel you'd be able to recognize most quickly so that you can make the choice to change your posture, to interrupt that thought process and say, okay, what is my next best step to make this a wonderful day? And then make it a wonderful day.
Yeah, the more proactive that you are with that, I think. We were talking about morning routines this week.
Oh, yes.
We won't dive too deep into it because we should probably just do a separate video on morning routines. But I find that the days that I actively am being proactive in where my focus is, where my intentions are, where I'm going in life, what's, the things that we're grateful for, all of this, then it's almost like I have more reserve in my tank that when something has that, I have more of the authority and more of the ability to be able to catch myself when I'm falling into that.
Right. And I'm going to encourage you to try it, to practice it, because James is able to say that because of his experience, right? Yeah. He's done both ways. He said, on the days that you do it, the days that you don't do it, is that flow.
I'm way more reactive if I'm not doing it and more proactive.
And like we've said before, don't trust us until you try it, right? Yeah. So try it. Action steps. Find your large muscle group that is your cue, that tells you that you're about to trip into an emotional state that doesn't work for you. Whether it's fear or surprise, anger. Yeah. That's a tough one, right? So look for those cues. let us know how you're doing with
If you
it.
have questions about like
Oh
deeper,
my
like, hey,
gosh.
can we dive deeper into cues? Like, just
Let us
send
know.
a comment, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely reach back out to you and make
Absolutely.
sure that you understand triggers, cues,
Yeah.
how to find it in your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. And our ultimate objective is to help you have a better life through your own intentional process.
Yeah.
So we're out of time, dude.
Perfect.
All right. We love you guys.
Love you guys. Take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.